semester. It's Savage Radio, and today we are doing a video with my. I guess I can do it. I guess I can show you stuff. A reaction video. Yeah, let's do that. Reaction video. Sorry, the other video that I did with this. The other video that I did with this. It had no audio, but this probably has audio.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, apparently.
Dude, that's clickbait. Hey, ads.
Once every semester in high school, we would have a mandatory Spirit Assembly. I've been told that it was about supporting our sports teams or something, but based on the title, I'm not entirely convinced that it wasn't about ghosts. Anyway, my friends and I would usually get our parents to write us notes so we could leave after lunch instead of having to sit in those uncomfortable bleachers for 2 hours. But one time, I forgot to get my note. I was resigned to my spooky fate until 5th period, when I found my golden ticket. Someone had left a printed staff-only email in plain sight. It listed who was supposed to guard which door after final attendance was taken to be sure that students couldn't skip the assembly. Armed with this email and a map of the school, I began to hatch my escape plan. I crossed off every exit in the list and found that one was to be left unattended. For some reason, the assembly was in the gym, so the auditorium and its backstage door leading outside would be unsupervised, which would have been perfect if the entrance to the auditorium wasn't locked from the inside. Luckily, I just happened to have some electrical tape. When the lunch bell rang, I ran to my locker and hit my first snag. Kyle noticed me taking things out of my locker instead of putting them away and immediately knew.
Tim Tom, how are you getting out of this?
With no time to explain, I got all Terminator-y on him and was like, "Come with me if you want to live." So Kyle grabbed his bag and followed me to the auditorium's side door, in plain view of an exit that would soon be guarded. I knew that the side door could be unlocked if you pulled up on the handle real hard, but for the sake of the story, pretend that I picked the lock, because that's way cooler.
What are we even doing?
Shut up, Kyle, I have a plan. We made our way to the back of the auditorium and stashed our bags. Then, I covertly disabled the entrance's locking mechanism. Doesn't that sound cool? I put tape on the latches. After lunch, everyone headed to take attendance before the assembly. It was then that panic set in. The entrance to the auditorium may be unlocked, but it's raised above the cafeteria floor. Walking up those steps would be suspicious. We needed a credibility prop. For those of you not versed in the art of doing things you're not supposed to, a credibility prop is something that makes it look like you belong where you don't. When I reached my class, I saw it. A 50-foot Ethernet cable coiled on a table by the door. Perfect. I was the first out of the room, and when I saw Kyle, I threw him one end of the cable and let it all unfurl. Now if a teacher saw us walking up the steps, it would look like we were working, I guess? Look, it made sense at the time, okay?
It didn't.
Shut up, Kyle. We grabbed our bags and headed backstage. Kyle opened the door, blinding me with sunlight and freedom before retreating immediately. Someone who had made a break for it was getting hauled back inside by a teacher, and she had almost seen us. Dang it, Kyle, do not blow this operation. I opened the door more cautiously this time. The coast was clear and we bolted in opposite directions. Rob, my getaway driver who remembered his note, was waiting in his car, engine running. It was hard to believe. After what must have been whole minutes of planning, we were finally free. My 5th period teacher actually overheard me discussing my plan and was like, "Tim Tom, why don't you just go to the assembly?" And I remember really dramatically turning around and saying something like, "It's not about the assembly, it's about the plan." And he was like, "Alright," and went back to playing solitaire. One time, I skipped school by hiding in someone's backyard when the bus pulled up to the stop, and then I walked home after my mom left for work and used her email to let the school know that I was sick, and I deleted their reply. Which is horrible, but it was the only time I've ever impersonated someone, and I want to pretend that makes it better. I never told her that though, so, sorry Mom. At least I had a good reason, okay? There was a physics test that day, and I wanted to play Minecraft instead. And before I go, I want to thank James from The Odd Ones Out for the cameo. You might not have heard of him, he's a pretty small channel.
Hey, thanks for the exposure.
Oh, anytime, who knows? One day you might be as popular as me.
Hey, how many subscribers does he actually have?
So So you know how I'm incredibly confident and definitely not awkward or unsure of myself in any way whatsoever? Well, it wasn't always like that. It's still not, actually, but it used to be worse. My self-confidence probably reached its lowest point around the 8th grade, which might sound pretty scary to any Sevies watching, so real quick, if you're struggling with self-confidence, I just want to say, it gets worse. Anyway, my 8th grade year, and also all the others, were filled with me not knowing how to act or what to do in pretty much any situation, which led to a ton of embarrassing moments that I can make into a video. School! One time, I got a pimple in my ear that itched real bad. The whole day, I was doing everything I could to ignore it, but when I was sitting in history, it just got way too distracting. So I gave it a little scratch. I did everything I could to clean up the blood before anyone noticed, but I didn't just pop the pimple, I replaced it with a blood faucet. I asked the teacher if I could use the bathroom, and he was like, no. But then I said, yeah, but I'm bleeding out of my ear. So he was like, fine. Another time, that same teacher sent me to sit in the hall for like 5 minutes. I don't remember why. I was probably talking too much. It's not important. I ended up falling asleep in the stairwell and woke up when the bell rang like half an hour later. I went back into the room to grab my stuff, and the teacher was like, oh, I forgot about you. Actually, that was probably more embarrassing for him. At least I got a sweet nap out of it. One day I was doodling on my homework in math class. I was a couple years ahead in math, so I was the youngest kid in the room, and I didn't really know anyone. Some people would use that opportunity to be charismatic and make new friends, but I decided to be socially awkward and talk to nobody. Anyway, I doodled my name like this, because I think it looks cool, and the girl who sat next to me was like, whoa, do my name! I didn't know her name. I've never been great with names to begin with, and this was the only class I had with her, but we were at least halfway through the school year. I definitely should have known. But you can't just tell someone you've been sitting next to every day for months that you can't remember their name, so I told her to do it herself. She never talked to me again. I panicked, okay? I didn't want to be rude, but I couldn't bring myself to admit that I didn't know her name, even though that probably would have been less embarrassing. Wait. Most of the moments I was mortified about during school were actually not a big deal, like, at all. And I was dumb for thinking anyone cared, because they didn't. But at the time, I would have switched schools just to avoid anyone who ever saw me, like, accidentally walk down the wrong hallway. Which isn't a super embarrassing thing to do, and everyone's done it at least a few times, but it's happened enough to me that if you added up all the mild embarrassment, there might be more than from any other single dumb thing I've done. I wonder how many miles I've spent walking the wrong way. I've probably burnt so many calories. There were a few ways I'd try to cover a mistake like that. I'd check my phone and pretend that I'm turning around because of a text, or I'd just commit and keep walking down the wrong hall, take the stairs to the 2nd floor and loop all the way around back to where I actually needed to go. I'd waste a ton of time just to avoid people seeing me backtrack. What's wrong with me? I was talking to a friend about this, and when I asked how she'd cover, she was like, oh, if I ever went the wrong way, I'd just turn around. Get out. Looking back, I'm more ashamed at the things I did to avoid embarrassment than the things I was trying to avoid in the first place. So I guess there's another lesson for you. It gets even worse. Like this one time, I was heading to my locker after lunch, and when I rounded the corner, this girl jumped out and scared me. I screamed in the highest-pitched girly girl voice you've ever heard. I probably broke a few windows. Of course, the girl who spooked me was laughing after a successful spook, so I tried to laugh it off with her. At that point, I might have escaped with only mild embarrassment, but someone else walked up and asked what was so funny. It would have been so easy to say, I screamed like a girl. But oh no! 8th grade Tim Tom went to incredible lengths to avoid embarrassment. So, in an attempt to dodge the question, I just laughed harder. I can't answer the question if I'm busy laughing, right? But the harder I laughed, the more everyone around us wanted to know what was so funny. I was drawing a crowd. Crap. The more people wanted to know, the more I wanted to avoid explaining anything. And I had very few options other than to just keep laughing. After the lunch bell rang, we had 5 minutes to get to class, and it took about 1.5 minutes to clean up and start heading to my locker, which means I stood there fake laughing for an eternity. I was in too deep. The longer I waited to explain, the higher their expectations were. My only hope was to just wait them out, and I am not a quitter. I laughed like my life depended on it. I laughed harder than anyone has ever laughed in the history of mankind. My eyes were tearing up, I was clutching my sides, I lost my balance and slid down the wall. I made sure the entire school could hear me. I might have overdone it. Eventually everyone went to class, and I was left alone on the floor of the hallway. They all probably thought I was the weirdest kid in school, but hey, at least nobody knows I scream like a girl. Alright, so I haven't mentioned it in a video before, but I have a Discord server where you can come say hi to me if you're into that sort of thing. I'll put a link in the description, it's whatever. And if you want me to put your fan art in an end card, just tag me on Twitter. Anyway.
Discord server? He said Discord server? Yes! I got a better Discord server than you! Tom. I mean, Bugs, sorry if Bugs is probably watching this. Join. Dang it! I can probably survive that. Let's watch this.
VidCon Europe happened. And I went to it! With Jaden! We've known each other for a few months, but we hadn't actually met until now. I was pretty nervous about meeting in person for the first time, and then immediately having to sit next to each other for 8 hours straight on our flight to Amsterdam, because, I mean, let's be honest. Until then, I had no proof that she wasn't an axe murderer. Still don't, but we're friends, so she'll kill me last. Anyway, flying with a friend is awesome because airplanes are hilarious. The in-flight magazine had lots of not English bits next to pictures that couldn't ever possibly make sense. Like this one guy who was just holding a duck. What you doing with that duck, man? Are you gonna eat him? The best part about Duckman is that I used my phone to translate the caption and it said, "Test the chops of pork." Which answered, "No questions, Airplane Magazine." This guy had a hat that he seems to like. Scarlett Johansson was taking a nap for some reason, and this sweet briefcase wants you to move over, millennials. Comedy gold. I stole this. Also, I think the guy in front of me was sitting in his chair upside down. We basically spent the entire flight just tiredly laughing at everything. When we walked out of the airport, we just stood there, like, now what? We didn't even know how to get to the convention center. Luckily, a very nice and not at all shady foreign man walked up and asked, "Taxi?" "Why yes, complete stranger, we would like to put our lives in your hands." He told us to just walk toward the parking garage down the street and he'd catch up. Yeah, that's fine. At least if he murders us, we'll get a good video out of it. But it all went better than expected. He unlocked his car and then went to do something real quick before we left. The only real problem was later when he accused me of messing with his taxi meter thing. We were in the back seat. When I told him we had no idea what he was talking about, he was like, "In my 4 years of taxi driving, it's never done that." Done what? There's a first time for everything, bucko. I got a bad feeling that he was trying to scam us somehow, but since I'm so well versed in the art of doing things you're not supposed to, trademark, there was no way a taxi driver was ever gonna pull a fast one on us. He was actually a pretty nice guy, and we made it to the hotel in one piece, which, by the way, had an amazing floor-to-ceiling window. An entire wall was just a window. So that was exciting, but Jaden broke everything, so we got upgraded to a less cool room. That's fine. I mean, she only ruined my whole trip. While we were waiting for the new room, we went out to explore Amsterdam and get something to eat. I'm from a city that isn't cool enough to have a metro or anything, so we had to figure out how to use public transport. When you buy a tram pass, you're supposed to scan it when you get on and when you get off. But one time, Jaden forgot to scan it as she was getting off, and I got really worried. "Jaden, you're not following the rules!" She turned around all dramatic-like. What are they gonna do? Kick me off? And of course, the delirious laughter didn't stop when we got off the plane. We were surrounded by signs written in Dutch that looked real silly to my dumb American eyes. Look at this. That's not a word, that's a short story. I think they had to make the building wider just to fit the name in. Sometimes we'd see a random English word thrown in for good measure, like this ad at the tram stop that said something apparently outrageous about mayonnaise, because, seriously? The best part is when a word is almost English. Like the name of one of the weird restaurants Jaden found on her phone, spelled Y-A-G-O-Y, which I read, "It's Yagoy." With a name like that, we had to go. The thing we didn't know about Yagoy is that it was actually a yoga school that also sells food. Just inside was a big sign, "Show us your feet," which seemed a little forward, but who am I to argue with a laminated sign? So we took off our shoes and picked a table. The lady that runs the place came over all confused, like, people don't come here for the food, but we still got dinner and some tea that tasted like gum. 10 out of 10. When VidCon started, we went to some panels and walked around the expo hall. The craziest part of the trip to me was that about a dozen people recognized me. I mean, I think people were mostly excited to see Jaden, and I kinda cheated by tweeting what I was wearing, but that was so cool. First, thank you. Everyone who came up to us was super nice. And second, are you sure you don't have me confused with someone else? I have like 2 videos. Either way, thanks. On the second day, Jaden was the moderator of the animation panel, which was awesome, by the way. Good job, Jaden. And when it was over, I was the first to clap, so I helped too. Afterwards, Swoozy was taking selfies.
Seem to have misplaced my glasses in the ocean. I can't see anything without the specs. Oh, sorry, Alex. There, good way. See?
With fans and generally just being like the smoothest guy ever. I mean, I'm incredibly charismatic, obviously, but Adonde takes it to a whole new level. Swoozy is somehow cooler in person than in his videos. It's disgusting. So Jaden and I went over to the window where Adonde was making a small crowd feel like the most important people in the world and sat kinda next to him. I was trying to play it cool because, you know, can't let Swoozy outshine me too much, but also furiously taking mental notes. After a while, I was like, so, we're about to go get dinner. If you wanted to come, that'd be cool, I guess. And he was like, ha ha ha, no. What, am I not cool enough to eat with? Am I not up to your standards? Probably not. But Jaden is. You're not gonna hang out with Jaden freaking animations just because I'm with her? That's understandable. Sorry, Jaden. Besides, he had another panel to do. A likely excuse. Another panelist was one of the first people I ever subscribed to, Tomska. He's pretty well known for making this. And after Swoozy headed out, it was just me, Jaden, and Tom. Now's my chance. I can use everything I learned from Swoozy just now to be so charming and funny that Tom will have no choice but to go to dinner with us and follow me on Twitter and be my best friend in the whole world. So I confidently strolled over to him and said, so, we're about to go get dinner. If you wanted to come, that'd be cool, I guess. And he was like, ha ha ha, okay. It worked! And to top it all off, he followed me on Twitter so I could DM him the name of the restaurant. We are pretty much best friends now. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Tom, his friend Elliot, Jaden, and I went to this place called Wagamama, which we don't really have in the US, but it was delicious. I don't have a joke for this part, I just really liked the food. Actually, can we talk for a sec? Not everything that happens to me is funny, but now it's kinda my job to share my life and hopefully make you laugh. I wish I could tell you a hilarious story of all the crazy stuff that happened that night, and I think some YouTubers might embellish things, but the truth is...
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Finally.
We just ate dinner and relaxed, which I needed after a day of running around VidCon. Tom and Elliot were really genuine and down to earth, and it was cool to actually get to know them a bit. We booked a few days extra with the hotel, so after VidCon, we'd have time to explore Amsterdam and take a train over to Paris, which just sounds cool, doesn't it? Yeah, no biggie, just gonna run to Paris for the day. The morning of the trip was supposed to be frantic. Wake up early, eat breakfast, ride the tram to Central Station, and get on a...
So guys, I know we didn't get to finish this video, so guys, see you later.